Hey everyone, Depressed here, and this is Final Fantasy Tactics. Unfortunately, I have to do post-commentary because my mic has been jacked up for some reason. So hopefully this goes a little bit better. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to mute everything because I was doing commentary as I was recording, and it's just going to interfere with everything. So unfortunately, this is going to be a very quiet video. So yeah. This is also my second attempt to actually do post-commentary since my mic was going in and out. So I've tried a different port and replugging everything in, and hopefully that works out. Anyway, so we're going to the second fight of the second fight of 4 for the extra content stuff. Our previous fight was against White Knights, I believe. Yeah, it was White Knights. This time we're going to be going up against 5 engineers. The ways they cheat, we might as well get that out of the way. The ways they cheat is they dual wield. Some of them dual wield guns, even though you're not supposed to be able to dual wield guns. And they're also all immune to status effects, and they are all immune to dark for whatever reason. I really don't like the fact that they're just randomly immune to status effects. Being immune to status effects literally makes an entire job class useless. Actually, it makes 2 job classes useless. One will be Oracle, and the other one is, of course, Templar Knight, which is Beowulf's class. So Beowulf has come along for literally battles he's not even useful in. Anyway, I'm kind of just going over some stuff about I've read in comments. Oric did kind of mention go ahead and switching over to Abandon, so I went ahead and switched his from Weapon Guard to Abandon. This will supposedly double all of his evasions, which is pretty impressive because you can see from his shield and his accessory that he's looking at some pretty insane evasion at this point. So pretty much any attacks from the front are probably not going to hit him. Besides that, I also switched Mosh over to Weapon Guard by his request. So now he has a little bit of physical evasion from the front. I mainly switched over simply because he didn't rely on the 63% chance to proc speed save, and speed save relies heavily on actually getting hits. The save skills really are only good against taking lots of little hits. For example, like getting hit with Dancer strikes, Dancer abilities and things like that. But since most things generally hit for I don't know, 200 damage for some reason, especially monsters, its usefulness is pretty limited, especially since it's not even guaranteed when you get hit. Alright, so besides that, I'm pretty much just discussing what all we need to worry about. Mainly the thing I'm concerned about is my gear breaking. There's at least one engineer that has battle skill, and he loves to just shoot from a distance, breaking my gear, and usually he has 2 chances to do it because he's dual wielding. Since they're engineers, they do have innate maintenance, so you can't steal or break any of their gear. That isn't cheating, that is just something that engineers have, so that is legit. Bastardio has it too. Besides that, there's not really much else to say. I'm just switching over a number of characters over to using maintenance, which will make them a little bit weaker in some areas, but at least they won't lose their gear. And unfortunately, this upcoming fight's actually probably the roughest of the bunch. The difficulty curve kind of goes backwards in this particular series. The White Knights and the Engineers are generally the hardest fights, while the third fight's probably the easiest, and then the fourth fight can be kind of in between, I guess. I was considering just going to use Arya, simply because switching over to maintenance would actually make it so she's no longer dual wielding and instead wielding one weapon 2-handed, which is an innate ability that samurais have. Samurais can use their one weapon 2-handed for twice as much attack power. So obviously this will be an opportunity to show off just how strong the Masamune is by itself, rather than being weakened by the fact that you're having an offhand weapon. The main benefit of doing 2 weapons as dual wielding katanas rather is the chance for doing multiple hits with the double strikes for a potential 4-hit combo. But Masamune is pretty hefty by itself, so I wasn't really that concerned. And besides that, as far as what team I want to take, as I was going to go Ramza, Arya, Hitoshi, Hatsunoka Koro, and I was actually going to go ahead and bring Chizad, because Chizad actually has maintenance as part of his kit. So that was going to be my plan. One concern I had was the fact that my initial plan was actually just to take an Agrius, because Agrius has haste. And one thing you can do in this particular map is you can actually block in two of the engineers right off the bat if you're fast enough. Unfortunately, I didn't take advantage of that, and that actually ends up costing me dearly for this upcoming fight. The team is okay. If I had actually taken the time to adjust their gear a little bit so they can be immune to certain status effects, I think the fight would have gone a little bit better. But this upcoming fight is going to be kind of a wash, unfortunately. Also, just to let you guys know, the upcoming two fights after this one are going to be post-commentary. I'm pretty sure of it, simply because I kind of recorded everything back to back and did rendering after the fact. That's usually what I do, because I usually don't have mic problems like this before. But since I do have mic problems, I'm going to have to do post-commentary for everything, which essentially makes my day much, much longer as far as rendering everything. Luckily, the other two fights are generally a little bit faster. I think this is the longest fight of the bunch, simply because I screw up so much. So, yeah, the thing about this is, off to the right there in that little cubby hole, there's actually two engineers in there, and you can actually trap them if you're fast enough. Fast enough and mobile enough, that is. But unfortunately, I didn't take advantage of that. The first character that goes is Hatsunoka Koro, and I didn't really check to see what the turn order was, because I was hoping to put Chizad there, because it's obviously Chizad's kind of the tank, but he's not fast enough, and that kind of screws things up a little bit. I go ahead and show off everyone's stats and gear. There's a melee engineer that's dual wielding ice brands that has Hamado. Come to think of it, I'm pretty sure engineers can't use swords, but I'm not entirely certain. I'll have to look that up later if I care to. But anyway, something to note about her is she does have item, and she definitely has Amado, and she has like 70-something brave. And their stats as engineers are actually completely inconsistent, it feels like. Because that one that has Hamado has 10 physical attack and 17 magic attack, while then you can see these guys over here have 12 and 12. It feels very inconsistent, especially since at level 99, Mustadio has 17 and 10 for his physical and magical attack. So, also apparently one of the engineers knows Leviathan as a skill, which apparently translates into talk skills mixed in with Gaze of Doom, apparently. I don't know. It's very strange. But yeah, the second engineer that's in that cubbyhole is in the back, is actually a melee one that has two mithril swords. Those two mithril swords and all that actually makes her spells pretty devastating, since mithril swords provide a lot of magic attack. So, anyway, yeah, I could have moved Hatsunoka Koro right in front of them and locked them in, but I was dumb, so not much we can do about that. But we get to, the engineers are very fast, unfortunately, so they get to go before everyone else besides Hatsunoka Koro, and they also have Mosfungus Bombs, which they can hit multiple targets with. Mosfungus Bombs are, of course, a engineer ability to stop. It does slow and poison, which is pretty devastating. It's a bunch of fast characters. Also, since they do wield guns, which is, of course, cheating, when they do things like arm aimings or any sort of weapon breaks, they'll actually get 2 attempts to do it from a distance, which is pretty nasty. So pretty much the stats effects are what kind of screw us over. And there's not really, and since of course we have the low ground, because that's how the maps always work, it's been not very favorable to us as far as positioning goes. At this point, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do. Biggest issue for Ramza is the fact that all the other engineers go before any sort of spells get finished, and it just made it very difficult for me to figure out what the hell I was going to do with him, because the only thing I could do that's instant cast is Chain Lightning, which unfortunately is not going to do as much damage because he doesn't have Magic Attack up equipped right now. Also, just for you know stuff I always mention when I'm doing post commentary, if sometimes my commentary will desync with what's showing, so I apologize if that happens. There's not much I can do about it unless I do a lot of stops and starts. Anyway, majority of our party is now poisoned and slowed, and we have one character that has don't act as well. So since I didn't actually cover up that cubby hole, the one that had black magic and two swords is now free to do whatever the hell she wants. She's prepping up a Melanier, which is going to do, over 400 damage apparently to Ramza. And pretty much the only person that can be affected with status effects that hasn't been yet is Ramza, which will probably change very soon. So yeah, the entire party being slowed while these guys actually have pretty reasonably good speed is, yeah, pretty brutal for us. It's actually pretty amazing how fast they are at freaking level 45 when we're level 99. But not much we can do about that. So biggest issue, of course, is I need to deal with the Melanier. Unfortunately, I underestimate how strong Arya's two-handed Masamune is. Or Muramasa, I think it is. Whichever sword it is, the 20 damage, 20 weapon power sword. Or katana, rather. So I was trying to do a kind of a team effort to try to take out Doris over there, this guy's Melanier. Which unfortunately wasted actions is something you can't really afford to do when your entire party has been slowed. I do have a little bit of bad luck in this particular fight, which you'll probably notice very, very soon. But for right now, I'm trying to figure out what exactly I need to do. So the concern I have is the damage split, which will reflect half the damage back at me. But I can definitely do quite a bit of damage. The other thing I could have done was I could have done Dark Sword and drained all of her MP. That would have negated the spell entirely. But then she would have resorted to physical attacks, which would have been not much better. So thankfully I didn't actually track her damage split. Chizak can't do anything, but I went ahead and just moved up to block in the one gunner that's still in there. And then I go ahead and see how strong Arya is, and find out that she can do 600 damage to the caster. So she could have just soloed that, and I could have used Hitoshi to actually do something else instead. But that was my bad. So as always, like in battles where I generally don't do well, is I end up sending my mime to the front, but she definitely does a lot more damage now since she's level 99. Our stats have been bolstered quite a bit. Unfortunately, once again, Ramses' turn order just does not sync up right, so everything is just going to go before he can actually complete a spell. And at this point, they have move +3, so they can definitely reach Ramses pretty easily if I'm not careful. And he's kind of just out of range to do anything. Probably the smart decision to do would have been to just cast Asuna and move away from everything. But unfortunately, hindsight, you know how that works. So I do Chain Lightning, which unfortunately doesn't do very much damage. I think it's a bad compat combined with the fact that we don't have magic attack up, which would have increased it about 30% or so. But it does trigger Chain Lightning for Hatsune Kokoro, so I do a little extra damage. Unfortunately, Beowulf does absolutely nothing. If he had Remedy, he would actually be useful, but he doesn't have Remedy. The best thing he has is freaking X Potion, and possibly Phoenix, and probably Phoenix Down. And now Rams has been don't acted. So 2 of my party members can't do anything, and 3 of my party members are poisoned and slowed. And Hatsune Kokoro is going to start taking damage. At this point, I was like, okay. At this point, I think I was like, okay, well, we might be able to buy some time since they backed away. And then she critted for 221 damage, hit for 130, and procced her Ice Bracelet all in one go. So that's where the bad luck came in, and pretty much wiped Ramsay out completely. So at this point, I was in really bad situation. The only person that isn't slowed or poisoned or don't acted is Hachino Kokoro, who can't do anything besides attack by herself. So yeah, it's at this point it's pretty one-sided. And that particular engineer has Hamado, but I don't have anything else to do besides I could have moved up, which would probably have been smarter. But I was like, I gotta try to at least do some damage, which of course Hamado procs and cancels the attack. So yeah, I should have just pushed and tried to take on Navarro there, and that would have at least kept more pressure up there. It also would have, put Hachino Kokoro in the line of fire, but at least she could have done something instead of, wasted action and take additional damage. Because she's just going to get whittled down at this point, so. But, like I said, hindsight. But yeah, usually I should have stuck with my original plan and used a hasted person to just cover that door right there, and that would have trapped two of them, and it would have bought us a little bit more time to actually be prepared. But it's alright. I mean, it's a little annoying. This is a pretty rough fight. There's a lot of stats effects. Majority of the attacks can bypass evasion, and even the melee characters are pretty brutal here with the Hamados, which Hamado is great when it procs and it's against melee attacks, which is unfortunately what majority of our party is because everyone likes melee attacks for some reason. So it is what it is. So. I was a little concerned about doing a Dark Knight ability from melee range, but it didn't seem to proc Hamado. I don't know if that was because it can't or if it was just I got lucky. But anyway, Hachino Kokoro goes down, and she's pretty fast, which means her timer's going to tick rather quickly. At this point, I was like, all right, I need to get somebody back up. I pick Ramza because Ramza, of course, can actually revive other people, and Chizad still can't do anything because he still don't acted. So it's the best thing I can do right now. At this point, I'm kind of checking to see certain things like, are they immune to Dirk? Are they immune to Frog? Which, of course, the answer is yes to both. And once again, Ramza's turn syncs up in a way that all of the opponents get an action before he can finish his spells. So at this point, I was like, whatever, screw it. I'll just throw Holy at this person, hope it actually does something. Of course, it doesn't, but it was the thought that counts. And unfortunately, Holy's not enough to kill him, or kill her rather. And that's not at this point. I'm checking like, oh, what else can I not do to this thing? So yeah, Mammoth Darvon misses, nothing too special. And apparently my audio is getting spread out because of weird pauses in the actual recording, but that's weird. But not much I can do about it. And at this point, I'm kind of screwed. Arya just got sealed, so she can't do anything now. And she's my highest damage dealer. Unfortunately, she can't really do much against the one that has Hamado, besides use her draw out abilities. And this is the point where slow finally wears off, which unfortunately it's a bit too late for us. Beowulf tries to help out a little bit finally, but unfortunately it's too little too late. I'm actually kind of annoyed that there's no antidotes in this game. that's something I kind of noticed. Poison's actually really hard to get rid of. You need Asunas and I think remedies to even get a chance to remove it. Anyway, at this point, I'm pretty much screwed. I think, yeah, at this point, I kind of give up. I would have to get Hachinokakura up first before I can do anything, which means I will be stuck waiting for potentially Chizat to get another action to revive Ramza, which is assuming he doesn't get hit with Don't Act. Hitoshi only knows black magic, so he can't actually do anything that's helpful. And while Beowulf probably can do something, I'm pretty certain he'll probably get hit with Don't Act and things like that. So at this point, I pretty much kind of call it. I do a few more attacks, but it's just not enough damage, and of course they're immune to status effects, so anything like Blood Suck and stuff is not going to happen. So let me be right back. Alright, so here we go again. This time I changed things up quite a bit. I of course have to take Ramza, but this time I actually bring a defense armlet. I had one in my inventory, which prevents Don't Act from hitting, so now he can actually consistently do things. I still bring Arya, but this time I replaced the Genji helmet with a ribbon, so now she gets full immunity to stats effects at the cost of some HP and MP, which of course she doesn't use MP. I do bring Hatsune Kokoro because she'll do just fine by herself. Kiyomi of course already had a ribbon, so I went ahead and gave her maintenance and then brought her along. And then the final person I bring is Agrius, who was this person I was originally planning on bringing. So she already has a ribbon equipped, so her stats are as normal. The only difference now is instead of having attack up, she has maintenance, so she doesn't accidentally get her ribbon or Excalibur broken. And yeah, so this time I definitely have someone that can guarantee getting that little cubby hole to block everything, and possibly do some devastating damage on top of it. I considered taking Meliadol, but Meliadol can only do Crush Punch, and she actually doesn't know. She doesn't actually know maintenance, surprisingly. I taught her a bunch of other items, but I didn't teach her maintenance. So it's pretty much Ramza and his lovely ladies at this point. Since I pretty much am using every ribbon I have. I have 4 ribbons, which can only be equipped by females. 3 of them are equipped right now, and Hachima Kokoro is immune by herself. Now, unfortunately, I get a little frustrated because Agrius doesn't actually have enough movement to get to the cubbyhole. She's fast enough, but she doesn't have enough movement because she doesn't have move plus 3. She has fly. So I go ahead and I was like, okay, fine. I'm just gonna get over here and do as much damage as possible. Unfortunately, my luck with freaking sword skills with Agrius is awful because it always seems to miss. But I even checked. I was like, okay, it was just the leather mantle on top of base evasion. That was 35% evasion, so it had a 65% chance to hit. But wish it was a little bit more consistent. But this time I was like, okay, well, I'll just bring Hachino Kokoro, and I have now heavily wounded one of them already before they even gotten a chance to take an action, and those 2 are now trapped. He's going to go ahead and do Mosfungus Bomb, which is only going to hit Ramza, but Ramza actually evades it, and of course everyone else is immune. Ramza is only immune to Don't Act and Don't Move. He's not immune to anything else. Them wasting actions on Beowulf is pretty much the best thing, because obviously Beowulf is useless to me right now. So once again, another Mosfungus Bomb. This time it actually connects. Does slow and poison. And then I was like, alright, well, let's see how strong Kiyomi is. So we can't really do much against the female engineer with Hamado, but I can definitely start attacking the other one and be aggressive this time. Since I don't have to worry about status effects or any of that nonsense. So 300 damage. I crit, but it unfortunately it was a weak crit. It didn't actually do any extra damage. But thing about mimicry is when you mimic attacks, you copy the actual weapon itself. So Hachida Kokoro ended up duplicating the Dragon Rod and just whopped that guy for 300 damage. Now the caster's going to be doing some stuff, unfortunately. She's right now channeling Blizzard. And I also go up and trying to get the momentum going, trying to get as many of these guys taken out as possible. So 56% chance to hit. Thankfully, I was pretty lucky that time and actually took him out. Yeah, this is the point where I actually checked to see if Blizzard, what spell it was. Now, with the body in the way, I kind of limited on my options of how to deal with the one that's in the cubbyhole. I mean, granted, I want to keep her trapped, but I also don't want to get blasted with magic every round. Anyway, I was checking to see what my compats are, because I want to do as much damage as possible. Now, despite the fact that she's in that cubbyhole, I can actually shoot a chain lightning through the ground to hit her, because chain lightning is ridiculous. But I mean, my other option was to cast things like Explosion, but I also wanted to make sure that Hachida Kokoro can mimic properly. So my options were kind of limited to Chain Lightning. So I just make sure I line up properly. Now, Ramza is slowed in poison, but I'm not too concerned about that, because at this point I've already taken out 2 people, which is a lot better than what I did prior. And one of the engineers is trapped. I mean, granted, she can still cast some pretty devastating spells, but at this point, I'm at least somewhat safe. Also, I did realize that caster actually has Abandon, which doubles her evasion. So really, my chances of hitting her with sword skill, Holy Knight of Skills, is actually pretty not that high. But since she's casting, I can actually do whatever the hell I want at this point. So I was just short of doing enough damage for this particular thing, unfortunately. But I do, and I also noticed that Blizzard was centered on Agrius. So it's either on the tile, in which case it's going to hit Hachida Kokoro, or it's going to follow Agrius wherever she moves, in which case it'll just hit her, which I would rather have that happen, since she can tank the hit a little bit better. But yeah, she is nearly dead. Beowulf, of course, does nothing. And yeah, quite a bit of damage, but not enough to actually kill. I fortunately can't reach anything with Hachida Kokoro, so I think I keep her in place. Also, I just noticed anytime I'm doing this post-commentary stuff and I see the video pause, that means it's going to get my audio is getting desynced. So, the more you know. Anyway, this particular, the one that has Hamado, of course, has items, so I can at least make her waste actions, reviving the other characters. I wasn't too worried about the one that's just got revived, since I can have Arya finish things off. Now, the one, this last one over here actually has an Angel Ring equipped, so he actually has re-raise. And he also has Counter Flood, which procs pretty much every time I hit him. Unfortunately, backing into the corner with Agrius meant I don't have very many places to move with our 3 movement. But moving up next to the building pretty much breaks line of sight with guns, so I wasn't too worried about that. Guy does have good compat with Arya, so does a little extra damage, but it's only freaking 64 base, so it's not that big of a deal. Anyway, I go ahead and do whatever that long ability is, simply because it's a line-based attack, so I don't risk accidentally killing Aegrius with it, because I easily kill that guy, and then Mimicry will kick in to kill the other one, so they'll be down to 2 guys left. And of course we can get some free healing while we're at it. Well, not free healing, but some extra healing as well. Taking moves and actions does slow you down, but since I have nothing better to do with Aegrius, I was like, alright, well, might as well heal her up. And of course we have that one character to lock down with just Phoenix Downs, so we're pretty much in control at this point. All we gotta deal with now is the guy that has re-raise active, which unfortunately there's not much we can do about that. We're just gonna have to keep the pressure up. The counterfloat's kind of screwing with us, but we're all immune to status effects. Not that snow really does much. I go ahead and use Muramasa, even though it's going to end up hitting Kiyomi. I'm just trying to do some extra well, one, I wanted to kill the guy, but also I wanted to do some damage to the person that has Hamado. Unfortunately, you have to keep the pressure up in this fight because everything has light robes, which of course have regen. I wasn't expecting to do so much damage to Kiyomi, but unfortunately there's not much I can do about it. Sorry for the long pauses. It's a lot easier to do commentary when you're actually playing it at the same time. So nothing too special here. Regenerator active, so the little bit extra regen does help endure the constant pistol fire. The re-raise has been spent, so we just have to take him down one more time, and that'll finish things up for him. And so that will leave the Hamado player, and that's about it. With spells like Holy, we can just easily finish her off. But just in case, I go ahead and revive Kiyomi just to, add more to the pain. Not much else I can do with Arya, but Arya's draw out ability has been proving very useful for this particular fight. I decided to use a different draw out ability just so I don't break so many of my more expensive katanas. Status effects don't really matter. As long as I don't do a dark element, it should be fine. Arya goes down, but it doesn't matter because Holy will proc. the slow finally wore off. That slow I got hit with in the beginning of the game, or the beginning of the fight rather. And there you go. So a lot better than the second time around. This team went a lot better. So the first fight we end up getting a defender. This fight we actually get a pretty decent war trophy. It's known as a rubber suit. It has pretty good stats for light armor, and it gives +1 movement and allows you to absorb lightning attacks. So it's pretty handy, especially if you end up casting chain lightnings through people. So, yep, that's pretty much it. Sorry for the post commentary. The next few battles are going to be much the same, unfortunately. So, I'm D Depressed Hero. This is Final Fantasy Tactics. See you guys later.